Hey, I'm your host, Melissa, and I want to welcome you to Not Your Average Blonde podcast. I'm here to show you how to elevate your life to become the best version of yourself. I want to take you along your journey to be anything but average and step into your confidence era. Join me each week by subscribing and listening to Not Your Average Blonde podcast, and let's begin our journey to become anything but average. Hi, welcome to Blonde Boost, your weekly dose of motivation, inspiration, and actionable tips to help you level up and become anything but average. I'm your host, Melissa, and today we're diving into the idea of becoming 1% better every single day. It's a simple yet transformative concept that can completely change your life over time. So if you're ready, grab your coffee and let's get into it. So for this week's episode of Blonde Boost, kind of funny, I actually recorded this, or I thought I was recording, made it all the way through, and I didn't have my mic on the entire time. So that's a fun way to start out the week. But you know what? I'm here for it. So let's get into today's episode. Let's start by breaking down what 1% better really means. When we think about improving ourselves, we often envision a complete life overhaul. We tell ourselves we need to lose 20 pounds, start a new business, land a promotion, and be the picture of perfect health, all at the same time. That can be pretty overwhelming just to even start. And just thinking about all that, that kind of overwhelms me. But what I want to share with you is the truth is massive transformation isn't sustainable unless it's built on consistent incremental progress. Improving by just 1% today, whether it's reading for 5 minutes, organizing a single drawer, and you know that drawer I'm talking about, that bathroom drawer or kitchen or junk drawer that's popping into your head right now. Yep, that one. Imagine how good it's going to feel if you just take the time, just 5 minutes, clean it out. It might feel insignificant, but over time, those tiny improvements is going to create compounding results. So think of it like this. If you improve just 1% each day for an entire year, you'll end up being 37 times better by the end of the year. That's the power of compounding. On the flip side, if you get 1% worse every day, you'll decline almost to zero. And this principle can apply to every area of your life, your health, relationships, career, money, and especially your mindset, which is why you're here listening to this. So thank you. Now, I want you to have this visual before I dive into this next part of this segment. I want you to imagine rolling a tiny snowball in your hand, and you're standing at the top of a hill. I want you to take this snowball and I want you to start rolling it down like the hill and start making it kind of bigger and then let it go. At first, it's going to be pretty small and unremarkable. But as it continues to roll down that hill, it's going to gather momentum. It's going to grow bigger and bigger. That's the compounding effect in action. And it all starts with one small step. You taking that step to roll that small ball and then to get it going down the hill. And that's how you start getting those small wins. Small wins they're often underestimated because they don't feel exciting. I mean, let's be honest, how exciting when you think about it to clean out that drawer. But you know it's going to feel good once you get it done and you can look at that small bit of accomplishment. Oftentimes, those small wins, they're not flashy and they're not going to give you that instant gratification. But here's the thing. Small wins are what creates momentum, and momentum is absolutely everything in this process. When you accomplish a tiny goal, like making your bed in the morning or going for a 10-minute walk, you're telling yourself, I am capable of following through. This is going to build confidence and it's going to reinforce the belief that you can tackle bigger goals over time. And you're also keeping a promise to yourself, which is going to build self-trust. How cool is that? So let's say your goal is to run a marathon. Actually, that sounds kind of like hell for me, but it's a pretty huge goal that might feel overwhelming. It's not one that I ever aspire to do, but for those of you who love it, I actually have a lot of respect for you. I think that's really neat. But my goal, in this scenario, is I want to go hiking in the Himalayas for several weeks. I actually want to hike all the way up to Everest Base Camp. It's about a 2-week hike through the Himalayas, and I've seen, at least in the pictures, that looks absolutely gorgeous. I've heard it can be a very challenging hike, especially with the altitude. And, when you think of it, overall, just oh man, how am I going to get from this point all the way up to, Everest Base Camp? Or how am I going to go from 0 miles, from sitting on my couch every day to running 26 plus miles? The thing is like the first step is as simple as like putting on your running shoes or your hiking shoes and just getting started. Go out, start walking for 5 minutes. Go out and do like a quick little jog. It doesn't have to be long. You just start small. And that's the thing. By starting small, you're creating a win that's going to motivate you to take that next step. Another reason why small wins matter is that they rewire your brain for success. Every time you do it, your body is eventually going to like start craving it. You're going to want it. Every time you achieve a small goal, the reason why you want it is because your brain's going to release dopamine. As you accomplish it, those dopamine hits, it's that feel good chemical. It's going to reinforce the habit and it's going to make you want to keep going. And over time, those small wins is what's going to add up to like massive progress. So say you get up today and you want to go running and you're like, man, like, okay, I'm going to go do this like 5 mile run, but yeah, I don't know if I can do that. 5 miles seems like really daunting. So I'm going to get through the first, 2.5 miles or, 1 mile or even a quarter of a mile, break it down into like those small chunks to ease your mind like into it and to be able to give yourself like those small wins as you're working towards like that bigger goal. So let's get a little bit more practical. How do you apply this? Like some of these ideas, like for the 1% better principle. It's one thing to like talk about getting 1% better, but how do you actually do it? So I jotted down like a quick kind of like step-by-step guide of what I found, like what works for me for, improving like my life, like little by little every day. So the first is identifying your focus areas. I want you to take a moment to reflect on your life. Where do you want to see improvement? Maybe it's your physical health, your mindset, your finances, or your relationships. I want you to choose 1 or 2 areas to focus on. I don't want you to try to do everything at once because you're going to feel overwhelmed and then you're going to quit. And we're not quitters here. We're here to improve and to be anything but average. But what I want you to remember, it's about small, sustainable progress. So for example, if your focus is on relationships, ask yourself, what's one small thing I can do today to strengthen my connection with someone I care about? It's as simple as sending a thoughtful text or asking how their day was. Literally takes just like a few seconds. I know all the girls listening to this are going to love this podcast. And for some of the guys, I'm going to teach you a little bit. You could be like, oh, really? Like it's that simple. Yes, it really is that simple. Just send the quick text. See how they're doing. Jokes aside, the next step is like setting micro goals. So micro goals are what's going to be the building blocks of the 1% better principle. Kind of like what I described earlier with running, breaking it down into like, okay, I'm going to get through this quarter of a mile. I'm going to get through this half mile. I'm going to get through this mile. Instead of setting a big intimidating goal, like I'm going to run, 26 miles right now, or I'm going to lose 20 pounds. Focus on something more manageable. Like I will walk for 20 minutes every day. Over time, those micro goals are going to add up and you're going to see the big results. Another example is like, if you want to start reading more, don't commit to finishing a book in a week. Instead, start by reading 1 page a day. That's it. The goal is to build the habit here. It's not to overwhelm yourself. Habit is the key. Next is like tracking your progress. Progress tracking is key to staying like motivated, and you can also get some of that dopamine from it as well too, especially as you look back at your progress over time. And this can be as simple as like checking off a habit tracker, journaling your wins. I know several people like to use like apps to like log their actions, or they'll wear, like those fitness rings, which keeps track of like their movements and stuff like for them. There's a lot of different ways and a lot of different tools that you can go about tracking your progress. But the thing is like you're seeing your streak of consistent effort, no matter how small, that can be like incredibly empowering. It can do wonders for the mind. So think of it like watching like a savings account grow. Even if the progress feels slow over time, it's going to build into something more meaningful. And this goes into like focusing on, my next point of like focusing on systems, not just goals. This is a game changer for me. I like to be incredibly efficient in my life, and to improve efficiency and to be able to meet some of my goals, I have to put in place like systems that are going to work for me. My systems may not necessarily work for you, but I'm here to share with you like different ideas and different ways that you can go about doing this. But systems that's what's going to be your game changer. Goals are great for giving you in the direction that you need to go, but systems are what's going to keep you moving. That's what's going to keep you moving forward. So for example, instead of setting a goal to like write a book, create a system of writing for 10 minutes every morning. When you focus on systems, you're going to take the pressure off yourself for achieving specific outcomes. And instead, you're going to build those habits that's going to lead to consistent progress. And the last item is the hardest part is going to be patient and to trust the process. Like I said, the small wins might be a little bit hard to see, and you might not get that instant gratification, which unfortunately we live in a world that glorifies instant gratification. Well, both fortunately and unfortunately. But there's a lot of truth to be said about like finding joy in the journey, because real progress it's going to take time. Some days are going to feel easier than others, and that's okay. The key is that you show up even on the days when you don't feel like it. So one of the most beautiful things about the 1% better principle is the ripple effect that this creates. When you improve one area of your life, it's going to naturally spill over into other areas. So let's say you start prioritizing your health. Maybe you begin by walking 10 minutes every day. Over time, you notice that you have more energy, which is going to help you to be more productive at work. That productivity boosts your confidence, which is going to improve your relationships. One small habit can create a domino effect that transforms your entire life. It's pretty cool. And let's talk about like a real life example for this principle in action. So professional athletes, they're a pretty good example for a lot of the topics that I have like throughout this podcast series. But for professional athletes, they really have learned how to like hone in like the power of their mind. They don't wake up one day and suddenly become world class. Instead, they focus on refining one skill and movement, one habit like at a time. And over the years, those small improvements is what adds up to greatness. Another example is saving money. If you save just $5 a day, it might not feel like much at first, but over a year, that's $1,825. And that's not even counting interest. Quick plug here to put your savings like into a high yield savings account and watch that money grow. The same principle applies to any area of your life. So some of the challenges I want you to watch out for. It's going to be easy to dismiss the small actions because they don't feel significant in the moment. But remember, consistency beats intensity. It's better to show up consistently, even with small efforts, than to go all out for a short period of time and burn out. I've been guilty of this in a few areas of my life, and it sucks. It's discouraging, and it's really hard to make progress with it, with the intensity. I found that like if I break things down into those smaller steps, I'm able to maintain like that momentum, and I'm able to sustain it. I'm able to have the endurance to be able to build up like that habit. Another challenge is the all or nothing mindset. This is a really common one, especially when it comes to like fitness and nutrition. If you miss a day or fall off track, it's going to be tempting to give up entirely. But remember, progress isn't about perfection, it's about persistence. The key is to get back on track as quickly as possible. And this is this is going to be a common mindset that you might encounter with like the gym or diet. But to counter this, you put those systems into place that's going to give you some leniency while staying persistent. So for me with the gym, I may not be able to go every day, but instead of giving up because I miss a day, I have a personal rule of having some type of movement every day, whether that's walking a little more because I park further away, or I take my dog for a walk, or I stretch. And the big one is I don't allow more than 2 days to go by without working out. I may miss a day due to travel or whatever, but on that second or that third day, I am for sure getting in some type of a workout. And the system has allowed me for years to be able to still have some flexibility while staying persistent, like with like my fitness and being able to hit my goals. So to wrap this episode up, becoming 1% better every day, it's about embracing the idea that small steps lead to big changes. It's about focusing on progress, not perfection, and trusting the process even when you can't see immediate results. So here's your challenge for this week. I want you to think about one area of your life where you want to see some improvement. What's one small action you can take today to be 1% better? I want you to write it down and commit to doing it. And I want you to write it down and put it someplace that's going to remind you, whether it's your bathroom mirror and you see it every morning, or you set like a reminder on your phone and it pops up at, a time of day when you can give it that attention and focus, or you can even build it into your schedule. Like I said, you got to find that system that's going to work for you, but I want you to commit to doing it. So thank you for tuning into this week's Blonde Boost. I hope you found this information like helpful and inspirational. If you found this helpful, please share it with someone who could use a little motivation, and don't forget to tag me on social media with your thoughts and, post it on there as well too. I want to create a movement of daily progress together. So until next time, stay bold, stay inspired, and remember, big change starts with small steps.